How long is too long for leftovers?
Dubs down, baby. Go Ducks.
Lord, please give Justin Herbert my left hand.
Hold up. It's the Chargers Squad. Everything Los Angeles Chargers every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the City of Angels. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Chargers Squad Show, starting now.
Well, good afternoon. Hello and welcome to the Locked On Chargers Squad Show on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel. P. Fox covering sports in LA dating back to 2007 for ESPN LA and NBC Sports Radio. Kenyon Barner, the proud Duck, with one loss on the season thus far, heading to the playoff with confidence high. 3 years, 3 rings, 10 years in the league. And Daniel Wade, one half of the Locked On Daily Chargers podcast with David Drogemeyer. Today's episode of the Locked On Chargers Squad Show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks .onelink.me. Why are they giving it to me? Just go to prizepicks.com.
You'll figure it out.
Comfortable win today. That started off maybe a little shakier than we would have liked. Started off in the very beginning strong, a 3 and outs with a sack. Everything was looking good. And then Herbie left the game and we all went, oh, what is going on there? He comes back with a glove on and you could clearly, it was visible that he was in some sort of pain with that left hand because it was stiff. He wasn't bending the fingers, but he's a gamer. He was gritting his teeth and grinding through it. And in the end, it was fine. Ultimately, I don't think it cost them much, but now we have to wonder what it will cost them moving forward. How much of an injury is it for him, and how, I guess, it affected them most when it came to handing off the ball because they couldn't get up under center and he had to run everything from the gun. Fortunately, he's comfortable there. But yeah, all in all, today, I thought there was a lot of good things and a nice bounce back from the Jacksonville embarrassment. I feel like it was a comfortable win in spite of an ugly first half, but better to be good in the second half than the first half, right, Kenyon Barner?
Ain't no doubt about it. It's not how you start a game, it's how you finish it. And they finished this game exactly how they were supposed to. There's the old saying, you got to be thankful for what you have and grateful for what you don't have. And when our last show that we did, we talked about kind of this being a mirrored game, right? Both struggling in the same areas, offensive line standpoint. But then when you get in the game, you see that these two teams aren't equally the same. Las Vegas is far worse off than what the Chargers are when it comes up front to the offensive line. But the Chargers came out, did what they were supposed to do. Not a great game from Herbert, but a great game from Kamani Vidal.
Daniel, what'd you take away from this one?
Yeah, I think it was very much a take care of business game that maybe got flipped on its head a little bit once Justin Herbert went into the locker room, where now it's like a win at all costs type of game, survive and advance type of performance, just because we all know how tough the schedule is going to be, and they could never overlook the Raiders. But with the last 5 games they have, I mean, it has to be up there with the most difficult 5-game stretch in the NFL over these next 5 weeks. This is a game they couldn't afford to lose at all, but I was very encouraged, especially the way they limped into halftime offensively, especially, and all the blunders they had there, to come out in the second half, score 17 straight points, and put some of that behind them, give themselves a comfortable lead. So very much take care of business performance. They had to win this one.
The thing that I liked most about this was 1, 2, 3, 4 drives that were over 5 minutes. 2 of them were over 8 minutes. Unfortunately, one of them ended in an interception, but that first drive, 14 plays, 8 minutes and 50 seconds off the clock. And the next one, 14 play drives in the second, ended in an interception, but T-Jeff came right back and answered back quickly.
Beautiful play.
So that made it nothing. But I was starting to get a little worried that they just gave, it felt a little, I feel like I say this every week, but it felt a little bit like the Trojans and Bruins. Trojans a much better team playing an inferior Bruins team. They just kept giving them opportunities and let them hang around. And it kind of felt like the Chargers were doing that with the Raiders today, letting them hang around. They get down to the red zone twice and come up empty on both. That's just not what you want, not what you're looking for. It can't happen against a good team. Unfortunately, the Raiders are not a good team, but long drives, burning time off the clock Is that a recipe for them to beat a better team when you look at the way they're going with their offensive line, D-Wade?
Yeah, I think it has to be. And I mean, before the Jacksonville game, they led the league in time of possession. In that game, they got totally dominated in it. So I think, especially with, a potentially limited Justin Herbert going forward, to be able to control the ball the way that they did, to be able to get 4 or 5 yards per carry the way that they did against, a defense giving up 3.7 yards per carry coming into it. Yeah, it's really impressive. And I think you saw in this game, at least Greg Roman, where I had some issues with him, but figuring out what he has and trying to work, knowing the protection issues that they have, knowing that Justin Herbert's going to have to get rid of the ball quickly. This is something that they had to do coming out of the bye week. Know your personnel and know that going into the game. Don't just leave your tackles on islands. Don't do some of the things that got them in so much trouble leading up to the bye. So I thought it was big, but yeah, controlling the clock, a Jim Harbaugh staple. Run the ball, give your defense some rest on the sideline, and be able to kind of control the game. But you have to be efficient with your offensive opportunities if you're going to be limiting them.
The key to this is not going backwards, right? And we've kind of seen this with Greg Roman throughout this season. He shows one thing one week, and then the following week you're like, well, what the hell is this? This isn't what we put on film last week. So when you understand what the Chargers are dealing with, which we all do all season long, we've been talking about Herbert having to get the ball out of his hands, but that's to the play caller making the correct play call so that Herbert can get the ball out. 3-step drops, smoke screens, tunnel screens, whatever it is to take the pressure off of him. So I'm hoping, obviously, with Herbert's injury, his hand injury, you have to keep that in mind. So I'm hoping that going forward, this is the recipe of getting the ball out of his hand, but leaning on this run game. Obviously, we played a bad Las Vegas Raider team. I don't know when that'll change. It'll change at some point in time. But you played a bad Las Vegas Raider team, and you were able to capitalize it. But every time you give Kamani Vidal over 20 carries, this dude goes over 100 yards. Right. So if you're saying that is that's something that's continuing to show up, why not lean into it? Right. Why not continue to do it? And then shout out to the young buck
Jared Patterson.
Yes, came in and absolutely had a career day for him. So shout out to him going in there, and especially in 4-minute football, right? Yeah. Where the defense knows what you're trying to do. They know you're trying to run a clock out, but this kid was able to get in there, still be effective, had his longest run of his career during this game and get in the end zone. So shout out to him.
The highlight of this game for me, along with Rama, was that's not it here. Bashan Vidal's run broke this game open. I'm still concerned about the play calling by Roman, but early in the games, whatever. The thing about that for me was the acceleration, the downshifting into fifth gear, and leaving the defenders in his wake. And then the other thing that I haven't seen from him a lot, he's kind of that, just put his head down and power into you, but he had that foot in the ground cut there where he just left a defender at, on his side, because he just put his foot in the ground, cut right, and was like, whoop, I'm gone. Yeah. See you later. And that to me was a different level for him as far as he's been good. I'm not saying he hasn't been good up until now, but that was nice to see that foot in the ground move where he was able to just leave defenders behind him and burn away and leave him there chasing him down was fantastic. So I was excited to see that from him. And without a doubt, I think it did kind of break the game open for the Chargers, Daniel.
You're right. And he hadn't shown that home run ability before, Pete. So, yeah, I think, that's one of the benefits of running the ball on third down. Obviously, what they did was lean into his strengths and run him off tackle and get him outside of the tackle box, which is where he does the most damage. But after breaking through that initial line, it's you and one dude, right? And if you can make that one guy miss, like you said, that was the big difference there. That's what changed it from being, a 15-yard carry to a 50-plus yard house call. But we just hadn't seen that explosive ability since Omarion Hampton left after he had that 50-yard touchdown against the Giants. So I think the way they were able to run the ball and to Kenyon's point, stay ahead of the sticks, right? They weren't taking negative runs. They weren't putting themselves in third and long situations for that offensive line to get feasted on. For them to be able to do that, and not only that, run the ball 40 times in this game, like the yards are impressive, the touchdowns are impressive, the yards per carry are impressive, but you're running 40 times, that means something's going well, and you're being able to run it when they know it's coming at you. On that last drive to put the game away after the Raiders cut it to 10 points with a 6-minute drive, Pete, like you're talking about, another one of those 5+ minute drives and put that thing away. That's not something we've seen from the Chargers every week. And against, a Raiders defense, which has been bad, but has been okay against the run, I think it's super encouraging.
I'm looking at this run, Peter. I keep smirking, right? I keep looking at this run. And the reason why I'm smirking, when you look at this run, not that you guys can see it right now, but what allowed Kamani Vidal to make this long run, as a runner, as a running back, coaches always look at, are you a 2-foot cutter or are you a 1-foot cutter, right? A 2-foot guy has to gather his feet in order to make a cut. Kamani Vidal on this play, when he's getting through the line of scrimmage and he's breaking through, who is that, Devin White coming down to make the play, he does not chop his feet. He puts 1 foot, like you said, putting that single foot in the ground and getting upfield, and that allows time and space to remain effective in him to get that long run. But to your point, as you said, Daniel and Pete, we haven't seen this from him. We haven't seen him be able to burst through the line and run away from guys, and he did that. So that's a great sign for the Chargers.
It's one of those things where it's one of those football terms that we know it when we see it. But when you try to describe it to somebody, you're like, like someone who doesn't know football, put your foot in the ground. What does that mean?
Yeah.
You show them that video and they would be like, oh, okay, I get it now. It's exactly what he did. Will Garrettson says 8-4 is a great place to be. Tough stretch coming up, but let's take it one game at a time. Philly's run defense looked awful against Chicago. That's a good thing to note. But the thing that I keep coming back to with this team, when you look across the league, like Carolina beating the Rams today, and the Rams were all
shocking
Super Bowl favorites, and then the Carolina Panthers caught them sleeping and beat them, right? And so it is literally every Sunday it's different.
That could have happened to the Chargers today, to your point. Like, that's why you can't take it for granted.
Yeah, my Ram friend buddies were like, hey, that was a game where they got caught sleeping. It was a trap game, and I said, well, the Chargers they're not in a trap game situation right now, coming off that game against Jacksonville. They are ready to play today, especially off the bye. So that I didn't feel too worried about the Raiders when it came to that. But I look at this team right now and I go, just take it 1 week at a time, because you just don't know. I mean, they didn't look powerful today, but they didn't look terrible. All that matters is they got the win, and you move on. They're 8-4, and you take the next week. It's a Monday night game. They've been very good in prime time. So let's just hope that Justin Herbert is going to be okay. Obviously they can use some duct tape and super glue and figure it out. But he seems like he's ready to go. All right, we'll take the first break. Chargers now 8-4, 5-2 at SoFi. 31-14. Also didn't feel like a heavy partisan Raiders crowd today, which was a little surprising. Of course they were there, but the Charger fans showed up, which is nice to see. Pete Fox, KB, and Daniel Wade will be right back and get back into the defensive side of things in this win for the Chargers. All right, today's episode of the Locked On Chargers Squad Show brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid, which is a lot more fun than just making a good decision about what to have for lunch. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season, whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both. There's no better way or no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried Prize Picks yet, give it a shot. Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 to 6 players and their stat projections for any game. And if you get them right, you win. It takes more or less than 60 seconds to make a lineup, and you can play anywhere. Prize Picks operates including in California, Texas, and Georgia. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Locked On NFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, where it is good to be right. All right, Chargers 31-14. T-Jeff with a nice interception. I mean, that was, let's be honest, that was more than nice. That was spectacular. I mean, it was just a heroic, a lot of luck involved there, but a heroic catch. It reminded me of that touchdown that Brock Bowers made with one hand.
Oh my gosh.
Such a unbelievable, fantastic catch. I mean, I don't know how he pulled that one in. We saw a few of them over the weekend, both in the college game and in the pro game. Brock Bowers was fantastic, 4 for 63. But yeah, T. Jeff with the interception. I thought across the board, They fourth down stop. The Raiders 0 for 2 on fourth down. So Chargers did a really nice job. Denzel Perryman, Tui Peloto were both fantastic.
Yeah.
Molden with 5 total tackles. He did have a penalty in there, but 2 solo tackles, third on the list. And Khalil Mack, Kenyon Barner was bringing the heat.
Well, it's Khalil Mack. You know what I'm saying? We talk about him.
Right?
No, not at all. We talk about him week in and week out and about what he means to this team and what he brings to the table. And this is a Khalil Mack type performance, a guy that's going to provide pressure, a guy that's going to get involved in a run game, a guy who's going to be a leader on that defensive front and on this defense. It's no surprise when Khalil Mack does what he does. This is what he's done his entire career. That's why at one point in time, I believe he was the highest paid defensive lineman in the NFL at one point in time, coming off of his first couple of seasons out there and with the Raiders. So, you know, this dude he's spectacular, and the Chargers are lucky to have him.
Daniel, to hold the Raiders to just 31 yards rushing, that's a star-studded performance right there.
100%. And that was one of the biggest things going into the bye week that had to be corrected. That was one of the things they could change. And I think in this game, you saw Jesse Minter respond to that a little bit with some more heavy fronts, not going with as many light boxes, and it led to, you know, a couple loose plays here and there. But what it did lead to was the Chargers being absolutely dominant against the run after giving up almost 200 yards in that Jacksonville Jaguars loss. They played it differently, and especially against a Raiders rushing attack that wasn't good. Don't be the get-right team. Like the Chargers too many times this year, whether it's from a pass rush perspective or a run game perspective, they were the team other teams had on their schedule looking at like, oh, well, the pass rush has struggled, but we're going to eat today, right? We're going to be able to run the football today. That wasn't the case. And I think the biggest part of that, Pete, is them going back or trying to still get closer to being that line of scrimmage team. The Chargers did not get dominated in the line of scrimmage. Defensively, they dominated the line of scrimmage. Offensively, when you run for, you know, as many yards as they did, you're dominating the offensive line of scrimmage as well. So getting back to being a line of scrimmage team, something where Jim Harbaugh said they got out physical in their last game. Khalil Mack took that personally. The Chargers looked like a trenches team on Sunday.
This is how dominant they were, Pete.
Yeah.
1.7. That's the number that the Raiders average on the ground. That 1.7 yards a carry, that's absolutely embarrassing.
Yeah, and 5 sacks on top of it all. But going into the game plan was clear that Genty would have to run the ball. And if the Chargers could stop that, they would probably be just fine. And that's ultimately what happened. But Tui Peloto with a couple of sacks. He was
a monster.
Yeah.
So there was just a lot of good stuff on the line on the defensive side, and something we haven't said in a while. Again, it's an inferior opponent, but we'll take it because it could build confidence. Hannon DeRay says Sawyer was good. If he plays like this the rest of the season, he will be a $30 million man, $30 million richer by 2028. I agree. I thought Sawyer was good. I mean, there was nobody to me that was, sore thumbing it out there. Like, oh, that was awful. And they got burned. That's one of those things with this line that if they can get some confidence and say, you hear it all the time, and not just in football, in all sports, where there is a game where a team turns the corner and has a different sense of urgency, a different attitude, different level of performance. And we keep waiting for the Chargers to do that, but they have been like, we play well, we win, then we go out and lay an egg. So I'm hoping that today is a game that builds some confidence in them and they turn that corner and get some momentum to this final stretch down the regular season schedule. I know the Eagles are a tough team, but as some of the viewers have said, the run game they were not good at stopping the run against the Bears, and the Bears are not particularly one of the better run teams in the league. They're okay, but they're not great. So I look at this and I say, do we feel like they gained some confidence today, or was this just the bounce back, Daniel, coming off of an embarrassing loss against the Jacksonville Jags?
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, right? Like, there was only so much you were ever going to be able to prove against this terrible Raiders team, who are there, with the Titans as maybe the worst team in the NFL. You had to take care of business, but there were certain issues we were just never going to know if they fixed in this game specifically. Now, that being said, Jamari Sawyer playing left tackle made a huge difference in this game, and that is one of those places where it's like, okay, what can change just talent-wise, personnel-wise, after the bye week That's the biggest change we saw, right? And I think it just begs the question, what took so long, right? We've seen them try Austin Deculus out there. We saw it with Trevor Penning the game before the bye week, and he got dominated. Jamari Sawyer, even in his rookie season, came in for an injured Rashawn Slater and held it down and let the Chargers do what they needed to do offensively. And kind of what we were told was, well, Jamari Sawyer can't bring in the running game, maybe what the Trevor Pennings or the Austin Deculuses can. I don't know if that's the case because I just saw them run the ball pretty damn efficiently with Jamari Sawyer at left tackle. So if you're looking for a turning point, there was only so much you could show against a really bad Raiders team. But I think Jamari Sawyer and the way he played at left tackle in this game has to be a huge improvement and a huge sign of hope that this Chargers offense, even, with an injured Justin Herbert, can go back to doing some of the things they did well when they had their 2-star tackles.
This is something else that we talked about. We talked about them having to play musical chairs along this offensive line and figure out what would work and what wouldn't work. And so to see Sawyer out there and him able to do what he does, it's you're finally waking up and putting guys in a position to where they can succeed or at least try them, right? And so this is something, again, that you have to continue to do going forward. And maybe they did find something here. Maybe this is where he needs to be going forward throughout the remainder of the season, but who knows with Greg Roman and what we're going to do with this offensive line. We may see something different next week, but I think this is something that you have to look at and say, okay, maybe we do have something here, and this is something that we can stick with going forward.
I'm curious what you guys think about the DB play today. I thought it was okay. I'm not going to come down on them, but there was a couple of times where Cam Hart got burned, Tarheeb Steele got burned a little bit, and that touchdown, the first touchdown to Bowers, wide open in the back of the end zone, there was nobody even close to him. I was like, what happened there? Was that just one of those typical broken, blown coverage situations, or did the DBs have a bit of an off day today, D-Wade?
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to tell, right? Like how much is guys scheming guys open and how much is the cornerbacks not making plays? Because, I mean, I think you did see, obviously, the Dante Jackson play that led to the Tony Jefferson interception. That was a play where he had great coverage. You go back to the touchdown to Brock Bowers, the second one, right? Cam Hart, what do you do, right? Like if you're Cam Hart right there, it's going to go down as a touchdown you allowed, and you're just going to have to eat that one because, I mean, what a play. But I do think it's concerning, I mean, it reminded me of the play going back to that Dolphins game. I know that's random, but when the Dolphins were coming back in that game, they found Darren Waller wide open in the end zone, right? You go back to the Colts game, you have Michael Pittman, their number one receiver, wide open in the end zone. And then in this game, you find Brock Bowers finding a way loose and just being wide open. Like there's just certain players that can never be wide open. Like that is a player that has to be all eyes on him every play, especially since they traded Jacoby Myers. There's just no way you can let that dude, like if he makes an outstanding play one-on-one against your corner on the outside, you live with that.
You live with that.
You can't let them get that guy wide open. There should be two guys on him at all times in the red zone. You can't have zero.
Yeah, it didn't feel like he's the type of guy that they just throw open, right? Where, he's the guy that they're going to throw the ball to, whether there's a guy on him or not. And, but, he's a fantastic receiver, tight end.
Crazy.
But, yeah, it didn't feel like he was that kind of guy, a type of receiver where you're just going to throw it in his direction and to steal from the Trojans, a Mekhi Lemon kind of a player that
he's that guy.
They just throw it at him, right?
He's that guy.
Jalen just throws it at him. It doesn't matter who's on him or anything. So I didn't feel like Brock Bowers was that guy. He made a catch like he was that guy. But
I got to tell you, Pete, I seen the guy up close and personal when they played Oregon out in Atlanta to open up. I believe maybe was it last season or 2 seasons ago. Bowers has been special from the beginning. Been a special guy, and so him making that type of play, it's really no surprise to me because he made those plays in college. So that you just haven't been able to see it at this level, and he's on a bad Raiders team. But to your guys' point, again, that's not a guy when you have no one else to key in on, right? When you have no one else to look at, you have no one else to focus in on, you can't allow the only guy that they're going to go to end up wide open. There was a play yesterday in the Oregon and Washington game with Denzel Boston, a kid who seemed to have made every big play that Washington need, and he ends up wide open in the back of the end zone running a crossing route where you're like, that's where they're going. Right. Everybody in the stadium knows. So why, as a defense, don't you know? And so it's just something that you cannot ever allow to happen, especially when there's no one else.
Yeah, that DB is one of the hardest positions out there, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can only cover a guy for so long, right? And if the quarterback can put it on him, I mean, it just makes it tough. From the Chargers receiving standpoint, McConkey 4 for 39 and a touchdown. The touchdown came late. Trey Harris had 3 catches for 30 yards. Keenan Allen. It seems like whenever they need a first down, it's 3rd and long. Keenan Allen is there. 4 for 30. Every time I see these numbers, I'm always surprised they're not higher. 4 for 30 today, no touchdowns. Oronde Gadsden, 1 catch. It was a fantastic catch to get him down to the goal line. 1 catch for 27 yards. And Quinton Johnston got the scoring started. 3 catches, 23 yards, the first touchdown of the game. That was nice to see. That was a little bit of bully ball there, wasn't it, KB?
Yeah, he did his thing, man.
Oh yeah, you weren't watching that part of the game. I'll throw that to
when did that happen? Was it?
Okay, that was the very first drive. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Ken Holmes was dealing with internet issues. Oh no, you're good. So yeah, I mean, it was a good catch just to make the catch, crossing route. But the most important part was he caught the ball about 3-yard line. 2 Raiders defenders ran into him, and the only person left standing was Quinton Johnston, who kind of just stood there before taking one more step into the end zone. But that is one of those ones, Pete, where like you can't judge Quinton Johnston's game by his box score in this one, right? Because that was a really tough play he ended up making there, and then obviously showed what he can do when the ball is in his hands, but it has to get there first. That was the most impressive thing to me, because he had a couple of really tough catches late in the game on a 3rd down. Justin Herbert rolling to his right. He makes a sliding catch, ends up having the 15-yard penalty on Max Crosby afterwards, because Justin Herbert delivers it, gets in Max Crosby's ear. Max Crosby pushes him down and gets a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct. But him being able to secure that catch, there was another fastball he caught on the drive of that touchdown where he made a nice hands catch, caught it confidently. But yeah, that I think shows you Quinton Johnston. Him making the catch, 2 guys bounce off of him. He's the only one left standing in a pile, cloud of dust, and then just easily steps into the end zone. We know that's what he brings to the table.
Yeah, well, Pete, 1 second, because I actually did see the play. Listen, here's the thing about the internet. You can Google all big plays. You can Google all big plays, so you can catch spark notes on anything.
Yep.
But Quinton, we got to remember, Quinton Johnston is not a small guy.
No.
Right? He's not a little dude. He's a tall, powerful receiving guy. So for him to be able to take on that contact, not even take the contact, but be able to deliver that blow and still stand tall, I'm not surprised by that. This dude he's a big human being. We're just so accustomed to the speed that he brings to the table that we lose sight that he's one of the bigger guys on the field.
We're spreading a lot of positivity here, but there's always the other side of the coin. Life with Dame. We look terrible. Okay, thanks. Yeah. Enjoy the win, buddy, because they're not going to be there all the time. Rama says need to continue to lean on the run for these last 6 games. We've been saying that all season, Rama.
All year long.
Yeah. You gotta lean on the run. So hopefully Omarian's coming back. We'll talk about that after the break. It's the Locked On Chargers squad show. Pete Fox, Kenyon Barnard, Daniel Wade. Don't forget to check out Daniel and David Monday through Friday right here on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel for their Locked On Chargers podcast Monday through Friday, an in-depth look as to what is going on in the Charger universe. All right, today's episode of the Locked On Chargers squad show is brought to you by Game Time, one of my favorite apps that we talk about that I actually use and have in my phone. Whenever I need tickets, I go to Game Time first. If I don't know somebody, if I'm not going with a buddy, I go to Game Time to get the tickets. And people ask me, hey, can you give me free tickets? No, I can't anymore. But I can tell you about Game Time because they always have the best deals. And with the NFL season being back, honestly, there's nothing better than being at a game surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But, at times, let's be honest, getting tickets can be challenging. It's a hassle. Long lines, login screens, prices jumping at checkout because of fees. It's frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time to your phone and at the best price. And if you're brave and willing to run the risk, the longer you wait closer to game time, closer to kick or tip or first pitch or first puck, the price drops and all fees are included. So the price you see is the price you pay. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, the code is LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. All right, Chargers with a much-needed win, 31-24, took care of business, as D. Wade put it, exactly what they thought they would do, exactly what they needed to do, and hopefully they gain some confidence, and hopefully Justin Herbert just needs a nice ice bath for that hand and everything.
We actually just got some breaking news, Pete.
Per
Jim Harbaugh, Justin Herbert has a break in his left hand and will have a medical procedure tomorrow. When asked if Herbert will miss time, Harbaugh said he isn't sure, and we'll see how the week goes. From Chris Rim.
Well, this is the same one of this. I think the same injury he had. I think it was back in 2023.
Yeah, he had two broken. Yeah, he had a broken finger on both hands. I think by the end of it.
Yeah, by the end of the year.
Started off with a broken finger. Broken hand changes things a little bit. I think as far as like, I remember that season you're talking about, Kenyon, and he came out with some weird, funky glove. They had like sewn two gloves together, and then he had some Frankenstein looking finger.
Yeah.
Obviously they must have seen that today when they brought him into the locker room before he came back in the second half to play. But if you're having a procedure, that changes the math a little bit, right? As far as, if that can be contacted at all. Obviously the Chargers have an extra day of rest before the Eagles game on Monday Night Football next week, but man, hard to say, hard to feel confident right now that he's going to be playing for that one if it's a break in that left hand.
I would put my money.
The hand is probably worse, right? The metatarsal is worse than the finger, right? Because you could brace up the finger, you can't brace up the hand.
It's hard at the quarterback spot, right? Because you have to be able to have two hands on the ball, especially dropping back to pass. And we kind of seen even in today's game, he was very right hand dominant, trying to keep that left hand away from any sort of contact. So I would, if I was a betting man, I would bet that Herbert's not playing this week. Like you said, Daniels, if he's having to go in and have a procedure, I don't see how he plays.
Yeah, you can't club that up like you would a linebacker, right?
Yeah, it's impossible. So, Trey Lance, get ready, brother.
That's tough. That is really, really tough. Yeah, I don't like to see that. I'm not terribly surprised based on he was holding his hand very straight. He wasn't bending it at all, and they might have shot it up to
absolutely, Pete. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah,
he was in. I'm sure he had an injection before the game started. I will. Again, if I was a betting man or if I had any insight into an NFL locker room, he got shot up with Toradol again. He won't feel his body until Wednesday this week.
I mean, I think we've all heard of Perk Rogers. We might have saw Perk Herbo in this one because, I mean, the way he was getting up in Max Crosby's face with a broken hand, we now know, given the first down nod, I mean, he was definitely shot up on something, allegedly, but man, you can't. You're right, Pete. Like the thing is when he was on that sideline, right when he came out of the locker room, right, the first thing they did was take backup center Andre James, put him on the sideline, and have him start taking snaps. You could see the hand wasn't moving. It wasn't one finger not moving, right? It was the entire left hand that was totally stiff, and then you saw it play out. I mean, even at the very end of the game, it wasn't Justin Herbert going into victory formation. It was Trey Lance. Why was that? Because Justin Herbert couldn't take a snap under center. And I mean, even in this game, in one of those empty red zone possessions, it was a 4th and 1. That's something all year they go quarterback sneak.
Yeah.
I mean, they're one of the best teams in the NFL quarterback sneaking. They have a 6'6" quarterback who weighs 240. It's what you do. Yeah. They couldn't. They ran it out of shotgun, and Kamani Vidal got stuffed for a loss. So I think now it becomes like, okay, well, if it takes 2 weeks for him to get back to the point where he can take snaps, do you want to continue to put him out there even, as soon as next week? And then have to run a partial offense, right? And then have him potentially injure it worse. Like this is going to make a big difference.
This is something I obviously you kind of have to do it. But I was having this conversation in the airport with some Oregon fans about injuries and how they wish Oregon would give updates on guys and tell the fan base where they are. I almost wish that you didn't have to come out right away and announce, right, what was going on, right? Because now that gives you somewhat of an advantage going into this upcoming week's game versus Philly, right, to where they may have been expecting to prepare for Justin Herbert, but then Harbaugh comes out and say, nope, got to have a procedure. That kind of now gears everything to now let's start dialing in and really watching film on Trey Lance. So I think we kind of shot ourselves in the foot a little bit with kind of coming right out and saying that. Well, I think he could have bought more time. I think this is something that could have been released, say Friday or
That's weird.
Saturday right before the game and say it was just not active. So I don't know why he came out and said that right after the game, because you don't typically get that, right? The conversation or the statements are, oh, we don't know anything right now. We'll find out later on in the week. We'll have them get with the trainers or get with the doctor. So I think Harbaugh was a little too open, a little too transparent in this case.
Well, I think it's probably because of the procedure. When you get so many other people involved, if he's just got like a pulled hammy or something, you can get by with him, being limited at practice. But when he's getting, it may not be cut, but a procedure, more than likely they'll open it up. But you maybe it's not. Maybe they're just the procedure is pretty vast. That could be any number of things.
Well, I'll go back to 2017 Super Bowl when we played against Tom Brady, and Tom Brady cut his hand wide open. You didn't hear about that until later on, right? You knew something had happened, but you didn't get the details. There wasn't a press release. Bill Belichick definitely wasn't coming out saying anything. And Tom Brady came out and threw for 500 yards in the Super Bowl game. So again, during that entire week, you hear of little things, so you're expecting that Tom is still going to play. But if you come right out and say, "Oh, Tom has a significant gash in his hand that's requiring a procedure," now you shift your focus, even though Tom plays. So even with that, I think you still could have bought yourself more time, because you never have to come right out and say anything. We don't do that.
Omari and Hampton just went 7 weeks, and after we found out he fractured his ankle and it wasn't an ankle sprain, right? If you're not, and the Chargers have been notoriously kind of tight-lipped in that regard too. So I think you're right, Kenyon. It doesn't benefit them. They've done stuff like this gamesmanship-wise before, kind of not putting out some of this information. Now, to Pete's point, we could have seen Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport say that Justin Herbert got a successful procedure done in Los Angeles by some famous doctor tomorrow. We don't know that. That's only if it gets out of the building, though, right? If they could have kept that in, now, how much of an advantage does that have against Philly? A struggling Philly team? You could argue a lot, right? Game plan wise. But also, in that same thing, he didn't rule him out for this next game, right? So there could still be a chance that we see him, DNP. They're not giving away whether he's going to play or not, but still, I think if you're the Eagles, you have to assume he's not.
Yeah, I just think he missed the mark on that one. I really do.
It's got to be some sort of Kevlar glove, right? You got a steel plate in the glove. You
got to squeeze it, P. You got to squeeze that ball, though.
That's true. That's one of those things that I appreciate that they tell us a little bit, because I get frustrated with hockey and I don't know.
Upper body injury.
Lower body injury.
But listen, it protects the player as well, right? Let's not act like there aren't dirty players in sports, right? Let's not act like there aren't guys who will hear. I know I've been in locker rooms where it's like, hey, we know this is hurt. So, let's go do what we got to do. I've been in locker rooms like that. And so
sweep the leg, Johnny. you got bounties, you got all of that takes place. So, I get it, giving the fan base, information, but when it comes to injuries, I've never been a guy that was for injuries being made public. I just don't believe they should be made public. I'll never forget an episode of the show Coach, starring Craig T. Nelson, who was a football coach, and they were in some random bowl game, and the quarterback was on the sideline till the very end, and everyone was like, "What's going on, Coach Fox? Hayden Fox?" And of course, he comes in at the very end and throws the game-winning touchdown pass, because they didn't know. They were just keeping him under the blanket to keep him safe.
Look, the same type situation in the movie Remember the Titans with Preach and Sunshine. Preach breaks his wrist, and then he comes in a game, and the conversation on the other sideline is, he's not going to throw it, is he? He's not going to throw it, is he? No, we're going to run a reverse with him and score a touchdown.
Well, we talked about it during the midweek show, Daniel, that we thought if the Chargers lose today, their season is done as far as the playoffs. Now, if they lose against the Eagles, I don't think they're done, but they still have a shot. They're still in that wild card position, and especially with the Chiefs kind of struggling and really trying to find their footing, and Patrick Mahomes calling them out saying, listen, we could lose or win on any given Sunday, and we don't know. Like he's got very little confidence about his team unless he's just trying to, sandbag us. But this Charger team at 8-4 definitely has a shot. And if they lose to the Eagles, I don't think they're done. So like today, if they would have lost, they would have been done. The season would have been over. This was a must win for them. Next week, not so much. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes, whether they will find a steel glove, some sort of, some sort of robo master type of thing to keep that hand safe, or, maybe he'll just be a tough guy and bear the pain, or who knows. Again, I think if they put a knife into it, that changes everything, because I think you're right that that just the healing from that takes 4 or 5 days from getting cut and stitches and whatnot. So that if they don't have to cut him, then I think we could be in a different position. But then the question becomes, do you run the risk of him getting hurt worse? Because that is one of those things that could get worse. Sometimes there are injuries that are like, I can't do any more damage. That could turn into more damage. So I feel like they have to be smart about this. And a lot of people in the comments are like, not surprised the way he gets hit. I knew he was going to get hurt at some point. So
it's not a scramble though.
Yeah.
Even the broken fingers, they came on a scramble. And that's the thing is like, if you want Justin Herbert to, be Josh Allen and try to truck stick dudes and not slide immediately once he gets past the line of scrimmage, this was always going to be part of the risk, right? You have to trust him once he gets outside the pocket and starts running. Today ended up not being a good decision, but also like kind of crazy. He had a broken hand and just stayed in the game. And the next pass, he's thrown to Quinton Johnston for a touchdown. So I'm never going to judge him or, think that he's not going to try to tough it out if he can. I think he's shown us plenty of time. He's as tough as they come. And if they give him even the sliver of a chance of being able to play on Monday Night Football, he's going to try to take it. It's more about, to me, should the coaches let him, right? Because that's where the coaches have to step in and say, listen, bro, like there's 5 games left. If we win this game, that's great. But like if we lose you for the other 4 after it, it's not going to matter if you beat the Eagles on Monday Night Football.
D-Wade, you hit the nail on the head with that. I think oftentimes as players, like especially as professional athletes, you're wired and we're almost brainwashed, right? To push through anything and everything that we possibly can. And it's encouraged by the organizations. It's encouraged by the trainers. It's encouraged by the GM. It's encouraged by everyone to push through. Fight through the injury, play through the injury. And that's the mentality of players. And especially we've seen this with Herbert. Herbert fights through anything and everything for this team. But there are those times where as a coach, you have to protect the player from himself. And so this very well may be one of those instances where the training staff, the GM, hell, the owner may have to step in and say, hey, you are the future. You are our franchise guy. If this is going to set you back further, we don't want it. So sit down, have a seat.
One of the things I am curious about is, do you think Madison Beer can kiss it better?
I'm going to say no. I don't know if she has magical healing powers, but I'm willing to try anything at this point. I'm wondering if you might just Ronnie Lott this thing and come out there with a bionic
hand. Cut it off.
That left hand's giving nothing but problems, bro.
Cut it off.
KB, we have yet to get to special teams. As
I've been waiting because our guy had a day.
I was thinking about you. Darius Davis played well today. He had
he did.
Returns for 88 yards, an average of 29.3. I guess it's safe to say that's the best day he's had.
That is the best day that he's had this season. We have not seen a game like this from him since last year. So it was really good to see him get going, not only in the kick return game, but also in the punt return, getting that punt return for, I believe it was 18 yards up that sideline, looking like the explosive guy that we had seen all year last year. So I'm hoping this was one of those games that wakes him up, that wakes up these special teams units, and we continue to move forward, because after getting the news that we just got and the way things are going, this special team phase of the game has to come alive from a return standpoint. They have to be able to help this offense get the best field position that they possibly can, score some touchdowns if possible. This unit has to come alive for this team to continue to have success going forward.
Daniel, how much of it is on Darius Davis' ability to play, and how much of it is on the other 10 guys on the field blocking? Because today I felt like they blocked better than they usually do, and it seems like it shouldn't be that complicated. Just man up, right? But they usually get overrun by the kicking team on the kick returns. But today I felt they were doing a much better job blocking. Did they figure something out by chance, or just had a good day?
Yeah, I think they definitely figured something out as far as like the personnel they want to use there and getting the guys that weren't in that position all year long in the spots they need to be and feeling comfortable. Because I think as much as, Darius Davis, a very encouraging performance. I mean, he's averaging less than 8 yards per punt return so far this season, which is just unheard of for someone who's been an all-pro return man this year. Yeah. That was great. But I do think you saw more lanes for him to run on those kickoffs, and you weren't seeing him first contacted at the 20-yard line, right? So I do think that makes a difference, but I think when you think of the turnover the Chargers have had, just not as just a roster, but just as far as special teams players and the new guys they have from last year to this year, it's been a process. But to Kenyon's point, like if Justin Herbert's down, you're going to have to win these games with your special teams and your defense. So I thought that the coverage, I mean, one punt return allowed for 2 yards, which is hugely encouraging because they've been the worst team in the league as far as covering punts. And holding the Raiders to less than 30 yards per return as far as their own kick coverage unit went, that was huge. I mean, I think any one of those returns could have sparked something in this game and helped the Raiders get back into it. And I think the special teams were a reason they were able to kind of separate and be able to put the Raiders away in this one.
When you look at kick return, you have to have your best one-on-one blockers on that unit, because that's what kick return is now. Yeah. There's no longer the wedge. There's no longer the double teams. There's no longer the trap blocks. Everybody is set up right in front of each other, and it's a one-on-one battle. So you have to have your best guys at being successful at executing one-on-one blocks, and they did a great job of that today. But to your point, D-Wade, about this coverage unit, they've been giving it up like a night walker walking on Figueroa out here in LA. So it was good to see. It was good to see them, come to play today.
Cameron Dicker good from 56. Boy, he split the uprights on that one. That was nice to see. But all in all, lots to feel positive about today. Other than the obvious injury to the quarterback, Herbert. So that is one thing that we can dwell on, I guess. The negative people will say, you win a game and then that happens. And then the positive people will say, well, let's see what comes next, right? How do we turn this into something positive? As challenging as that may be, at least Trey Lance got into the game today a little bit, and maybe that gets him comfortable and more ready for next week if he is to start. And hopefully we were a little surprised that Omarion was not back today. Or maybe we weren't after the news of what the injury really was. I was speculating that he would be back. Do we think, Daniel, that he's back against the Eagles, or is it still up in the air?
Yeah, I think he's back for sure. I mean, it definitely seems like they've been handling this and with player safety at the top of mind, and obviously knowing this dude's a rookie, right? Like, we didn't draft him to just be here to help us win this year. It's someone that we're going to be counting on for the next several seasons. And also, I think probably aided by the fact that the dude looks like he has the goods. Me and David talked about it last week. I mean, nobody had forced more missed tackles per attempt than him with more than 50 carries this year. He had 22 missed tackles forced and only 66 carries. That's one every 3 carries. Bijan Robinson, the most elusive back probably in the league, is at 3.3. Jonathan Taylor's at 3.9. Omarion Hampton has the goods, right? And I think now, especially with, the Justin Herbert news, with the breakout of Kamani Vidal, like, there is a game plan you could put together if your defense shows up and your special team shows up with Omarion Hampton and Kamani Vidal in that backfield, even with Trey Lance, who is a dual threat quarterback. They could put something together to, be able to run against an Eagles defense that allowed a ton of rushing yards to that Chicago Bears team. So
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. That's it. If you can get both those guys that 1-2 punch next week, it would be awesome. And I do think that this was a borderline. Maybe playing the Raiders had something to do with them holding him back in this one of the worst teams in the league. I think he's going to be back next week.
My only concern with that is, right, understanding that it's a fracture, so it's dealing with the bone, right? How is that bone healing? And so understanding that where we are presently with Herbert, I hope that they don't rush him back if he's not ready.
Because of the Herbert injury.
Because of the Herbert injury, right? And because you feel like you need to have something, you need to add something to the offense for it to be successful. With Trey Lance coming in, you feel like you need Omarion Hampton, right? And it's been done time and time again where trainers have rushed a guy back and made things worse. Oh, you can't, no, you're fine, you're good, you got it, you can go out there and do it. That's just being transparent as an NFL player, right? This is something that happens. This is what trainers do. This is what teams do. They will rush a guy back if need be. So I'm hoping if he's not ready, you allow him to get ready, because this kid is your future. You know, you spent the draft pick on him that you spent on him. And so you want to have him healthy and there. The best ability is availability. And so you want that going in the future. So I'm just hoping that if he is healthy, he plays. If he's not ready, don't force the kid back.
Well, they've been figuring it out all season. The coaching staff will once again be working overtime, trying to get ready and try to figure out a way to beat this Eagles team. They're keeping their head above water, still 8-4, still a solid shot at making the playoffs. So we just got to turn the page, stay positive, and hope for the best against the Eagles. That's going to do it for us here on the Locked On Chargers Squad Show. 31-14 win for LA over Las Vegas. For Daniel Wade, one half of the Locked On Daily Chargers podcast with David Drogemeyer, and for Kenyon Barner, 3 rings, 10 years in the league, and a proud Oregon Duck. I am Pete Fox. We will talk to you during the week with our midweek Locked On Chargers Squad Show. Take care. Have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.